What is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning into this video. It has been a long time since I've made a video in regards to a guide, in regards to anything that had or just wasn't really related to combat, and I've had a lot of requests for a lot of different things. So this is probably the most common question that I'm getting right now. They finally decided to, obviously, as you guys have seen by the title of the video, we'll be going over Mr. LeBlanc, and we're going to be going over his talent tree. I'll show you guys what the cooperation talent tree looks like, and we'll go over each of the talents there, talk about what he kind of seems like, what he feels like, and yeah, we'll just kind of cover all that in this video, because in my live streams that I had for Island Raid, and then when I was chatting in Armor GG's live stream, and even just in game, this is the most commonly requested question that I'm getting, and especially like, is he worth getting and stuff, things like that. So let's just dive into it really quickly before we go into everything. The TLDR on this is that LeBlanc is really a hybrid mix of Bianca or Marco on support. He's not going to be leading for damage or anything like that at all. He is a support hero, much like you would see out of like a Bianca. However, he does have a lot of traits in his kit that is very similar to Marco as well. So when you actually take a look at his skill breakdown, it's actually kind of like a hybrid mix of both. And so, yeah, that's kind of just the TLDR. So diving straight into it right off the bat, just looking at the first skill, Blossoming Life. Two things to note. One, the rage requirement is reduced, so it's not actually 1,000 rage required like most skills. It's actually down at 950. And then going into it, reducing the skill damage taken by 20%, or skill damage taken by 20% for 4 seconds, and grants a status to self and nearby allies, increasing the target's damage by 25% for 4 seconds. And if the remaining squad size is greater than 50%, when the target squad size is less than 50%, they get healed as well. So it increases the target's damage by 25% if they're healthy. It heals them if they are wounded and such, and then it also reduces the damage that they take, and that affects 5 squads. So this, even though it has like a lot of percentages and numbers and stuff like that, and can kind of seem complex, when you take a look at like Bianca's first skill, it says increases the attack by 42% and the defense of 42% for you and nearby allies. That's pretty much doing the same thing, right? Like, you're increasing their damage with attack, and then you're reducing the damage that they take by increasing their defense also. So you don't need to overcomplicate it. It's very much like the first skill that Bianca has as well. And it's just kind of worded in a more fancier way. And then, of course, Bianca gives the rage generation, where in this case he provides a heal to the less wounded troops. The difference here too that you'll call out is that his buffs in this case for the squads depends on the health of the enemy squads, or I'm sorry, of your allied squads that you're buffing, whereas Bianca doesn't have that requirement at all. They just get the flat attack and the flat defense, where in this case here they get attack if they're healthy, they get the defense if they're wounded and such. So just calling out that one limitation there. The second skill, Lingering, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, miasma, whatever it is. After using a rage skill, reduces the HP and travel speed of up to 5 enemies by 35% and 40% respectively. Also reduces their rage recovery speed by 20% during this time. This is like a combination of like 3 of Marco's skills, right? So his main skill reduces the rage of 5 enemies by 80, so it's not like the actual generation of it, but it's just a flat amount that it reduces. He also, when getting hit, reduces the HP of 5 nearby enemies by 47%, and then also, in his third skill, reduces the travel speed of the nearby, of course there's more to it, but reduces the travel speed of them. So if you were to take part of first, second, and third skill of Marco and throw it into one skill, that's essentially what LeBlanc is getting here. In his second skill, after using a rage skill, he's going to do this. So that's kind of the difference. Even though it is all 3 of those skills that Marco has, Marco's requirement for at least the HP reduction is that when he's hit, he applies that HP reduction, and that's a requirement. He has to get hit to proc that, where in this case here, LeBlanc, as long as he's using his rage skill, will trigger that for the enemy marches and such. Third skill, looking at the spore parasitism, I guess, or however you want to pronounce that. But yeah, third skill, increasing squad HP 20%, travel speed 20%, squad capacity 10%. This is kind of a mix, like if you were to pull in like I guess like one of the perks that some of the other heroes give you of the squad capacity. But other than that, it's the same thing that, like, again, what Bianca has, where she provides a buff for the movement speed. I believe that's the second one here. Yeah, the travel speed is increased. She doesn't give like the HP buff or whatever have you, but like I said, it's just very similar to her kit in that sense. He increases his own HP, he increases his travel speed, and the squad capacity goes up. Force skill reduces counter damage received by 20%. When taking skill damage, gains a shield for 2 seconds. This effect can only be triggered once in 6 seconds. So this is on him and him alone. Whereas if you look at like Bianca's case, she also applies a shield to however, it's applied to nearby allies, affecting up to 3 squads. So it's kind of just like a self-targeted version of that same shield that she applies. It's, in this case, not applying to other marches. But he also gets the reduction in the counter damage as well. And the trade-off here is that LeBlanc gets it when he's taking skill damage, so he has to either be targeted or hit by AoE skill damage by like a Louis or something like that, Miyamoto, to then proc this for himself, whereas with Bianca, it's just every 10 seconds she's giving that shield to three allies. So that's kind of the similarity there. And then the Awakening is just, it improves the Decay skill. Where is it? Lingering. Oh yeah, the lingering one. Sorry. Yeah. So it increases it transforms the skill a bit. So that is the skill stuff. You guys have seen that. You guys can read that. So just like, again, I don't want to spend too much time on that, but basically, like I said, when you take a look at his kit, what he's offered, like what he has available to him, you can just again think of a hybrid between Bianca and Marco, and that's kind of what you're getting. Is he worth getting in that case? I think so. He's going to be equally as expensive to get as Bianca. You have to wait for the leader roulette, so it's going to be the same way that you obtain Bianca, it seems like, unless, of course, the leader roulette is changed up. We can only assume it's going to be the same way, so just as expensive. However, because he does bring in the benefits that like Marco has of the reduction in travel speed and the reduction in HP and such, I think that's a huge thing, because that's like one of the main reasons why everyone loves Marco, is because he does the HP reduction. So in that case, I think he's definitely worth getting, even for just the skill alone. A lot of people got Marco just for the HP reduction skill, and you have to target him to proc it, and you're not limited by that with LeBlanc. So that makes huge appeal in order for you to get him. Who would you pair him with? I would be pairing this guy because he's a support, pairing him just the same way that you would the Bianca. So if you put him behind a tank, so then he just stays alive and he's continuously proccing the HP reduction and such like that in the field. That's definitely a viable option. So your tank marches. So if you're using like a Bodala, for example, for survivability, to make sure that you're proccing this as often as possible, that would be a great thing. You can also target it by putting him behind somebody with like the skills talent tree, which again, like Bodala, that way you have a faster rage regen, and since it's after using a rage skill, since you're using that skills talent tree, you'll be able to use this more often, since it doesn't say that there's a limitation here, like you can only use this once every like 10 seconds or something like that. So the faster you can get your rage skill brought out, the more you're going to be able to proc this, the longer you'll be able to have that uptime. So you can do that. You can also go down the route of basically just like taking another approach on it. Like you could put him behind like a Marco. So obviously, like when you have a buff skill or a buff hero like this, a lot of people like it to target the Biancas because they buff the marches. So if you were to put him behind, say, a Marco, for example, then you're kind of getting a synergy here where you want the Marco to be targeted to reduce the HP of the enemies using his second skill. So if by putting a buff march behind him, which is why a lot of people will put Bianca behind Marco, is that they see the Bianca, they want to target the Bianca, they hit the Bianca, and in fact they're hitting Marco, and that's applying the HP reduction. So that would be a way to leverage the Marco HP reduction, while also getting the HP reduction here as well. So again, depends. Do you want it to simply use it for the HP debuff? If that's the case, maybe you want to pair with Marco if you have him. If you want him to survive as long as possible, maybe put him behind the tank. If you just want to spam it, make sure you're putting it behind somebody like the skills talent tree, for example. Now that we've covered that, we'll just go quickly into the talent tree. So I don't know if many people know this. I've talked to a lot of people, even veteran players, that didn't know this. They were kind of, theorizing on what the talent tree for cooperation, because obviously we're getting a new talent tree here of what that looks like. If you actually go to strategy and click talent right here, you can actually see the talent tree in full. So we've been able to see this even though you don't have the hero. So if you didn't know that, this is just a niche little thing. Maybe a lot of people do. Maybe it's just the people that I've talked to that don't know that. But this is where you can actually see the talent tree and interact with it already. So let's go through it. Starting here, squad attack 1.5% or 0.75 each. That's pretty standard. Same thing through here, 0.75 on each one. Nothing to really call out there. And then it looks like another squad travel speed, 3% each, up to 9%. Same thing. All standard stuff here. So the micro nodes, we'll call them. We'll call these micro nodes and call these bigger one macro nodes. The micro nodes, there's nothing really new. Nothing that really stands out. It's just stuff you can get on any other talent tree anyways. Outside of that, let's start here. Victory Pursuit increases basic attack damage by 1% when flanking. So that's obviously out in the field, or if you're on a rally, I guess you could technically say that you were flanking somebody, even on garrison if there's a flank rally or if you're swarming, whatever have you. However, you'll notice with the rest of his other macro talents that you don't want to have him in a rally or a garrison, so this would just be out in the field. So increases basic attack damage by 1% when flanking, stacks up to 4, so we can assume that's going to stack out at 4%. Here, Ignition Sparks, squads not rallying or garrison gain an additional 12 rage when attacked. That's 4 out of 4, so we're going to assume it's 3 per level or per rank. So that's pretty good. When attacked, 12 rage is going to be nice. Now, if you're getting swarmed, you can open up some questions here. If you're getting swarmed, technically you're getting attacked by 5 marches. Is this only going to go by 12 rage per second capped? Are you going to get 12 rage per basic attack that you take? There's other questions here that basically the verbiage doesn't clarify. Doesn't say that you can only get 12 rage max per second. Again, doesn't say you're getting 12 rage per basic attack that you're eating or whatever have you. So again, there's questions to have here. We can assume it's going to cap out at 12 rage per second. So even if you are getting swarmed or getting targeted by a single march, it's going to be the same 12 rage basically per second that you're getting at max rank. Wild Onslaught 4 out of 4 increases squad attack by 6% for squads not rallied or rallying your garrison. So again, the limitation, you have to be in the field here. 4 out of 4, you're going to assume it's 1.5% attack per point that you put into this, capping out at 6. So again, same thing, nothing too crazy here, just getting attack or bonus attack when you're not in a rally. Squad travel speed plus 3%, 0 out of 4. So we're going to assume that this goes up to 12%, which is actually kind of nice. That should make it to where you can get in and out of situations if you're leading with this. First strike advantage, immediately gains 75 rage when entering battle. So again, like that's kind of self-explanatory. You just kind of start off the fight with 75 rage, considering his rage. His rage skill is a 950 rage cap. 75 is already over 10%. Like, what is that, like 15% or something? Like, no, not even. It's not even 10%. Sorry, I was thinking 500 in my head for some reason. But yeah, 75 rage, almost 10% of his rage skill is already just basically generated just by entering combat. So that can be decent. We kind of see similar nodes in like the skills talent tree and stuff, but yeah, when entering combat, so you use it immediately when you go into combat. It doesn't seem like it's gonna do any other effect for the rest of the battle. So maybe like a hit and run, you go in, you proc your rage skill, whatever have you, to use it to buff your marches. You run away, you wait for combat to reset, or you leave combat so you get the report, and you go back in, and you can just spam that if you wanted. But that's very niche, so I kind of assume you're just gonna get one benefit out of this per fight. Increases counter damage by 5% for squads not rallying or garrison. Again, we've seen this with other nodes. Limited to being in the field, increasing counter damage, which I mean is good if you're getting attacked. And there's not really too much to kind of say there. Like it kind of is what it is there. I guess that kind of goes hand in hand with Ignition Spark, because you want to get attacked to get the bonus rage regeneration here. You're not getting it if you're just attacking somebody but you're not being attacked, so that won't proc. But then when you are getting attacked, you can increase the damage that you're doing. So a little bit of synergy there, I guess. And then that is 5 out of 5, so it looks like 1% per rank. And then this one's 75, 5 out of 5, so we can assume that that's 15 per rank, 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, so 15 rage when entering battle per rank. Call to Arms 6 out of 6 increases squad attack and HP by 1.8% up to a maximum of 9% for 5 seconds for each squad nearby when using a rage skill. So that's going to be probably about 0.3% attack and HP per rank, capping out at 1.8. And then this one right here would be about, like, what is that, 1.5, up to a maximum of 1.5% at rank 1, and then going all the way up to 9% at rank 6. Now, when it says for each squad nearby using a rage skill, I'm going to assume that that's going to be enemy squads because of the nature of call to arms, right? You're calling to arms because you're getting attacked or something like that. For each squad, when using a rage skill. So like if you're swarmed or surrounded, or you're in a big cluster ball fight, that kind of a thing, then you can get the maximum benefit here. I'm going to assume that doesn't involve ally squads, but that would be my question. If you guys are just completely dominating, or if you're swarming a march, you have, do your other marches or do your ally marches count as one of those five, one of those five basically marches that you need to get this maxed out at 9%. So, or do you need to have 5 enemy marches? That'll be a question to kind of take a look at once we're able to actually utilize and try out this talent tree and take a look at the reports. But that is the talent tree for him. You already have the leader, you already have the support talents on the other heroes and such, or that's nothing new there. So you can take a look at those nodes also, whether it be here or on your other heroes. In terms of like what talent tree you should do, I don't really see an issue with doing this at all. Looks like the recommendation that they have here is actually fairly solid, actually. There's rage generation here, rage generation here, rage generation here as well. So there's plenty of rage generation going on. Reduction in skill damage for staying healthy and stuff. And then I believe this one's the travel speed one. So 18% travel speed. If you wanted him to give him more mobility, maybe you cut out of this if you don't want to have to. Like, let's say, for example, you need 5 enemy marches to have this. That's not going to proc if you're just swarming single enemy marches and stuff. So you may not be able to get this all the time. So maybe you opt to take out some points here, just make him faster so he's more survivable. That's another 12% attacks or movement speed. So there's definitely a lot of ways to go around this if you're to take points out of there, and maybe you want something that gives you more benefit throughout the whole fight, not just the beginning. Maybe you go over here and increases defense by up to 20% for 2 seconds after using a skill. Maybe you go down that route as well, since there's quite a bit of rage regeneration going on. You might be able to maximize this or get some good benefit out of this instead of this one here and this one here. So again, a lot of different ways we can mix it up. It's just time will tell after we're able to actually get into there and test them. But I wanted to show you this because, again, I've been asked a lot about theorizing for his talents, and then when I tell people that you can actually see it, they're like mind blown. So wanted to kind of just give that information while we obviously don't have him yet. But yep, that is a quick rundown of LeBlanc. And if you guys have any questions or concerns about that, or anything else that I can cover regarding this, please just leave a comment down below. And then obviously a lot of this is theorizing too. We can only kind of go off of the information that we're provided, and we can theorize, like what heroes to pair him with based on just, common strategy and stuff. But if there are other things that we can, take a look at the facts, take a look at the details that are provided, and, get a better explanation on, please feel free to drop that in a comment. But again, just recognize that we may be limited on the information that we can actually provide and go over, without it just being like a theory crafting type thing. So, yep, appreciate y'all being here. Drop a like, drop a comment, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.